We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Dominic Frost never believed in fairy tales. His childhood in rural Montana taught him that survival required vigilance, not wishful thinking. By 35, he had built a reputation as the finest underwater structural engineer on the West Coast, specializing in assessing damage to offshore oil platforms. The ocean's depths held no secrets from him. Human intentions were another matter entirely. He met Adrian at a charity gala for marine conservation. Ironic, considering his industry. She was collecting donations, all dazzling smile and emerald dress that match her eyes. What caught him wasn't her beauty, though she had plenty, but the quiet intensity when she spoke about ocean protection. That night, they argued about offshore drilling until the waitstaff began breaking down tables. Their courtship was swift, marriage following within a year. Dominic embraced her son, Wyatt, as his own, teaching the boy to swim, to fish, to respect the water's power. The child was 4 when they married, biological father long gone. A musician who'd chosen touring over fatherhood. For 3 years, they created something Dominic had never dared hope for, a family. Until he noticed the fractures, Adrienne's increasing absences, volunteer meetings that seemed to run later each time, the subtle shift in how she touched him, duty rather than desire. A message notification he glimpsed on her phone from someone called Bradley with a heart emoji. But Dominic wasn't one to make accusations without evidence. He was methodical, patient. The engineer in him needed data before rendering judgment. The Monterey trip will be good for us, Adrian said, packing sunscreen and beach toys. Quality family time. Dominic watched her hands, steady and sure. Unlike his marriage, which he now realized was built on sand, not bedrock. 3 days of sunshine, he agreed, meeting her eyes. Can't wait. When they arrived at the oceanfront hotel, Wyatt raced toward the water while Dominic unpacked. Adrian mentioned meeting her cousins for lunch, relatives Dominic had somehow never met in 3 years of marriage. Take your time, he said, kissing her cheek. Wyatt and I will hit the beach. Between building sandcastles and teaching Wyatt to body surf in the gentle waves, Dominic watched his wife across the restaurant patio. She sat with a man, tall, tanned, designer sunglasses. No family resemblance. Their hands touched too often, lingered too long. The caustic burn of confirmation spread through his chest. That evening, Adrian suggested they all go beachcombing together the next morning. You're suddenly interested in family activities, Dominic noted, tucking Wyatt into bed. She smiled, oblivious to his knowledge. I've just been busy with the foundation. You know that. Dominic nodded, memorizing her face, wondering when exactly she decided their vows were negotiable. Sure, he said. Family first. The morning arrived with perfect beach weather, warm sun, gentle breeze, moderate waves. Adrian seemed distracted, checking her phone every few minutes while Dominic built an elaborate sand fortress with Wyatt. I just remembered, she said suddenly, I promised to meet my friend Melissa for coffee. She's staying in the hotel next door. You two will be fine for an hour, right? Dominic nodded, noting the fresh lipstick, the extra spritz of perfume. We're good. Wyatt and I are professional beach bums now. You're the best, she said, kissing his cheek before hurrying off. After finishing their sand fortress, Dominic suggested swimming. They ventured into the water together, careful to stay where the waves were gentle. After 20 minutes of splashing and laughing, Wyatt wanted a snack. Let's grab something from a cooler, Dominic said, leading him back to their beach spot. As they munched on sandwiches, Dominic spotted Adrian, not at the hotel coffee shop, but walking along the far end of the beach with the same man from yesterday. She hadn't even bothered going far enough to avoid being seen. His phone buzzed. A work emergency. An oil platform report needed immediate revisions before a regulatory deadline. Hey, buddy, he told Wyatt. I need to make a quick work call. Stay right here, okay? Don't go back in the water until I'm done. Wyatt nodded, busy with his sand toys. Dominic stepped a few yards away, keeping the boy in his peripheral vision while speaking with his manager. The call lasted longer than expected, Nearly 20 minutes of technical details and revisions. When he finally ended the call, he turned to find Wyatt gone. Heart racing, Dominic scanned the beach, calling his name. Then he saw them. Adrian and her friend had returned, Wyatt now with them. Relief flooded him, followed immediately by anger when he approached and heard Adrian laughing. "Where were you?" she asked casually. "We found Wyatt playing in the water all by himself." "I had an emergency call," Dominic replied tightly. "He was supposed to stay put." "Well, good thing we came back when we did," the man said, extending his hand. "Bradley Montgomery. You must be the husband." Dominic ignored the hand. "You left him alone in the ocean?" he asked Adrian. She rolled her eyes. "He's fine, Dom. We watched him for a bit, then I needed to grab something from our room. Bradley kept an eye on him until I got back." "Where's my son?" Dominic demanded, looking around frantically. Adrian laughed dismissively. "He wanted to swim again. He'll probably come back on his own." Something in Dominic snapped. He screamed and ran toward the shore, scanning the water desperately. In the distance, he saw a commotion, lifeguards rushing into the water toward a small figure. His blood turned to ice. Racing across the sand, he arrived to find lifeguards performing CPR on Wyatt. A local surfer stood nearby, dripping wet, explaining how he'd found the boy struggling against a rip current. Adrian appeared moments later, face white with shock. The ambulance arrived within minutes. By some miracle, Wyatt began coughing up water before they loaded him in. "He'll be okay," a paramedic assured them. "Got to him just in time." In the hospital waiting room, while Wyatt underwent tests, Dominic's phone buzzed with a text notification. It was from an unknown number, but the preview showed a photo of Adrian and Bradley kissing passionately in what appeared to be a hotel room. The message read, "Thought you should know what your wife was doing while your son nearly drowned. Check room charges on your credit card statement." For 2 days, Dominic maintained a bedside vigil while Wyatt recovered in the hospital. Adrian alternated between tearful apologies and defensive justifications about how accidents happen. Each word further solidified his resolve. While she slept in the uncomfortable visitor's chair, Dominic used her phone to access her email, finding hundreds of messages between her and Bradley dating back 18 months. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning a future together. Bradley, a hotel developer, had promised to leave his wife once his latest project closed. Adrian had been laundering money from the Marine Conservation Foundation, where she volunteered, skimming donations to fund their rendezvous. As Wyatt slept, monitored by machines measuring his recovery, Dominic methodically assembled the evidence. Hotel receipts, bank transfers, text messages discussing how inconvenient Dominic's attachment to Wyatt had become. "What are you doing?" Adrian asked, waking to find him on her phone. "Learning the truth," he replied calmly. "How long have you been planning to leave with Bradley?" Her face transformed from confusion to defiance. "You weren't supposed to find out yet. Not until after Bradley's divorce was finalized." "And Wyatt? Were you taking my son?" "He's not your son," she snapped. "He's mine. Bradley has agreed to help raise him. While you were in that hotel room with him, Wyatt nearly died." She had the decency to look ashamed, but only briefly. "That was an unfortunate accident. You're the one who left him alone first." Dominic regarded her with cold detachment. "Get out." "What?" "Get out of this room. Get out of my sight. A nurse will contact you when Wyatt can be discharged. You can't keep me from my son." "Watch me," Dominic said, his voice deadly quiet. "Bradley's wife deserves to know her husband is planning to leave her. The foundation board should hear about your creative accounting. And Child Protective Services might be interested in how you abandoned your child to drown while you were having sex with your lover." Adrienne's face drained of color. "You wouldn't. I've already called a lawyer. I've documented everything. Get out." After she left, trembling with rage, Dominic called his closest friend, Parker Dawson, a private investigator who specialized in infidelity cases. "I need everything on Bradley Montgomery," he told Parker. "And I need options for ensuring Adrian never gets custody of Wyatt." "This isn't just about divorce, is it?" Parker asked. "No," Dominic replied, watching Wyatt's chest rise and fall. "This is about justice." 2 weeks after returning home, Dominic had transformed their guest bedroom into command central. Maps of Bradley Montgomery's hotel properties plastered one wall. Financial records of Adrienne's embezzlement covered another. Parker had delivered comprehensive intelligence. Bradley wasn't just a developer. He was notorious for cutting corners on safety to maximize profits. Dominic had secured a temporary restraining order against Adrienne after presenting evidence of her negligence to the judge. She'd moved in with Bradley, who had filed for divorce from his wife, Taylor. Dominic arranged a meeting with Taylor, finding her devastated but resolute. "They think they've won," Taylor said over coffee. "Bradley's already talking about the new life they'll build with your stepson." "That's never going to happen," Dominic promised. With his engineering background, Dominic understood structural integrity, not just of buildings but of lives and relationships. Every structure had its breaking point. Bradley's latest project was Oceana Resort, an ambitious oceanfront development nearing completion. Dominic's company happened to hold the contract for the underwater structural assessment. Using this access, he discovered alarming shortcuts in the foundation design, compromises that wouldn't show catastrophic effects immediately, but would eventually lead to failure. More disturbing were his discoveries about the couple's plans for Wyatt. Emails revealed their intention to send him to boarding school once they had custody, eliminating the complication he represented while they started fresh. "They see him as an inconvenience," Dominic told Parker one evening. "Something to be managed, not loved." "What's your play?" Parker asked. "I'm going to take everything from them," Dominic answered, "just like they tried to take everything from me." The first phase began with anonymous tips to Bradley's investors about the structural issues at Oceana. Dominic carefully covered his tracks, using Parker's expertise to ensure nothing led back to him. Next came leaked evidence of Adrienne's embezzlement to the foundation board, delivered through an anonymous email account. Their perfect future began crumbling when the foundation announced an audit and Bradley's primary investor demanded an independent inspection of Oceana. Adrienne called Dominic in a panic. "They're saying I stole money. They've frozen my accounts." "How unfortunate," he replied. "Almost as unfortunate as leaving our son to drown. Don't pretend you care about Wyatt. You're not even his real father." "No," Dominic agreed. "I'm something better. I'm the person who loves him enough to protect him, even from his own mother." As legal and financial pressures mounted, Bradley and Adrienne grew desperate. They filed for emergency custody of Wyatt, claiming Dominic was unstable and vindictive. The court date was set for the following month. Meanwhile, Dominic cultivated relationships with every contractor who had worked on Oceana Resort. One by one, they provided testimony about Bradley's demands to reduce costs by using substandard materials. The resort's opening was delayed indefinitely pending investigations. Bradley was not a man who surrendered easily. Dominic returned home one evening to find his front door ajar. Inside, his research wall had been torn down, computer missing. "They're trying to eliminate evidence," Parker concluded after Dominic called him. "They know you're behind their troubles." What they didn't know was that Dominic kept backups of everything, including recordings of conversations where Bradley discussed bribing building inspectors. The next day, Bradley confronted Dominic outside his office. "You think you're clever," Bradley snarled, "but you've made a serious miscalculation. I have friends in places you can't imagine. Back off now, and maybe we let you see Wyatt on holidays." Dominic regarded him calmly. "You endanger my son's life, so you could have sex with my wife. There is no backing off." Bradley's face reddened. "You've got a custody hearing coming up. It would be a shame if evidence of your unhinged vendetta against us influenced the judge's decision." "Threaten me again," Dominic said softly, "and you'll learn what an actual vendetta feels like." That night, Dominic received a call from a blocked number. "The custody filing was just the beginning," Adrienne's voice said. "Bradley's found a judge he knows. We're filing for a restraining order against you, claiming harassment and stalking. You'll never see Wyatt again." Instead of responding with anger, Dominic laughed. "You still don't understand who you're dealing with." The next morning, Bradley's wife Taylor received an unexpected visitor, a federal agent investigating financial fraud related to Oceana Resort. Taylor, armed with information Dominic had provided, secured immunity in exchange for cooperation. By afternoon, News broke that Bradley was under investigation for wire fraud, bribery, and tax evasion. His assets were frozen pending investigation. Adrian called Dominic in a panic. "What have you done?" "I didn't do anything," he replied truthfully. "Bradley's crimes caught up with him. And yours will too. They can't prove I took that money." "No. Check your email." She gasped as she found a message containing records of every fraudulent transaction she'd made, copied to the foundation board and prosecutors. "You'll go down with me," she threatened. "I'm prepared for that possibility," Dominic said. "The question is, are you?" The night before the custody hearing, Parker arrived at Dominic's house with unexpected news. "They've hired someone to discredit you," he said. "A guy who specializes in manufacturing evidence. They're planning to present doctored photos showing you abusing Wyatt." Dominic absorbed this with deadly calm. "Names. Guy called Milo Reeves. Works out of a private office downtown. Ex-cop with a reputation for solving problems. I need to see him tonight." Parker looked concerned. "Dom, whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking I need to protect my son." Dominic found Milo's office easily enough. The man himself was leaving late, carrying a laptop bag that likely contained the fabricated evidence meant to destroy Dominic in court. "Mr. Reeves," Dominic called, stepping from the shadows. "We need to talk about the job you're doing for Bradley Montgomery." Milo reached inside his jacket, but Dominic was faster, pinning him against the wall. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to make you a better offer." 20 minutes later, Milo agreed to provide Dominic with copies of everything he'd prepared for Bradley, plus testimony about who had hired him to fabricate evidence. The custody hearing began with Adrienne's attorney painting Dominic as obsessed and vengeful. Bradley sat beside her, projecting confidence despite his mounting legal problems. Then came their bombshell, photos allegedly showing Dominic mistreating Wyatt. "Your Honor," Dominic's attorney said, "we have a witness who can address these photos. We call Milo Reeves." The courtroom erupted as Milo testified to creating the false evidence at Bradley's request. By midday, the judge had dismissed Adrienne's custody petition and ordered an investigation into attempted perjury. Outside the courthouse, Bradley confronted Dominic. "This isn't over. You think you're winning, but you have no idea what's coming." "Actually," Dominic replied, "I do." That evening, as Bradley and Adrienne argued in their apartment about their collapsing plans, federal agents arrived with arrest warrants for both. The evidence Dominic had methodically gathered had been delivered to prosecutors through anonymous channels, impossible to trace back to him. Dominic watched the news of their arrests with Wyatt sleeping safely nearby. His phone buzzed with a text from Parker. "Phase 1 complete. Ready for Phase 2? "Absolutely," Dominic replied. "They've only begun to pay." With Adrienne and Bradley released on bail awaiting trial, Dominic entered the most dangerous phase of his plan. They were cornered animals now, desperate and unpredictable. Dominic was awarded temporary full custody of Wyatt, with Adrienne granted supervised visitation. During these visits, she alternated between tearful pleas for reconciliation and venomous threats. "You've ruined everything," she hissed during one such meeting while Wyatt played nearby. "Bradley says we should cut our losses and disappear with Wyatt. We could be in South America by morning." "Try it," Dominic replied calmly. "I've arranged for Wyatt to have a GPS tracker on him at all times. Private security follows him to school. You wouldn't make it to the city limits." Adrienne's litigation strategy shifted from custody to financial warfare. She claimed half of Dominic's assets and pension, despite their brief marriage. Meanwhile, Bradley hired a notorious defense attorney specializing in getting white-collar criminals reduced sentences. Their counterattack came swiftly. Dominic was removed from the Oceana Resort Assessment Project after anonymous allegations of professional misconduct. His company placed him on administrative leave pending investigation. "They're trying to discredit your professional reputation," Parker warned. "Without your income, they think you'll be vulnerable in the asset division." What they didn't know was that Dominic had been preparing for this. Years of living beneath his means had created substantial savings. More importantly, he documented every safety violation at Bradley's properties, information worth millions to the right attorneys. The pressure intensified when Dominic discovered a private investigator following him. Then Wyatt's school reported a man claiming to be Uncle Bradley, attempting to check him out early. The man fled when staff requested ID. That night, Dominic sat Wyatt down for a difficult conversation. "You know I love you, right?" he asked. Wyatt nodded. "Even though you're not my real dad." "Family isn't about blood," Dominic said, heart aching. "It's about who stands beside you when things get tough. I will always stand beside you." "Is Mom coming back?" Dominic chose his words carefully. "Your mom has made some choices that make it hard for us to be a family the way we were before. But no matter what happens, you will be safe and loved." After Wyatt was asleep, Dominic called Taylor Montgomery, who had become an unexpected ally. "Bradley liquidated his overseas accounts," she reported. "My attorney says he's moving assets before sentencing." "Perfect timing," Dominic replied. "Are you ready to execute our plan?" The trap was elegantly simple. Taylor, using information from her divorce proceedings, led Bradley to believe she'd discovered accounts he'd hidden for prosecutors. She suggested a meeting to negotiate keeping this information private in exchange for a more favorable divorce settlement. Desperate to avoid additional charges, Bradley agreed to meet at a marina restaurant, one of the few assets not yet frozen by authorities. Unknown to him, Dominic had arranged for federal agents to monitor the meeting from nearby. Meanwhile, Dominic invited Adrian to discuss a potential settlement of their divorce. "I'm tired of fighting," he told her. "Maybe we can resolve this without destroying each other completely." Suspicious but intrigued, she agreed to meet at their former home. Parker was positioned nearby, recording everything. At the marina, Bradley arrived to find not just Taylor, but representatives from the insurance companies he'd defrauded through Oceana's substandard construction. "What is this?" he demanded. "This," Taylor said calmly, "is your opportunity to confess. These gentlemen have evidence that you knowingly built structures that would eventually fail catastrophically. They're prepared to add their findings to the federal case against you, unless you sign these papers." The documents included a full confession of his financial crimes, admissions of attempting to fabricate evidence against Dominic, and a complete surrender of all claims related to Wyatt. "You're insane," Bradley snarled. "I'll never sign these." "Then you'll face additional charges carrying minimum 20-year sentences," one of the insurance investigators said. "Your choice." At Dominic's house, a similar scene unfolded. He presented Adrian with evidence of her full involvement in Bradley's schemes, plus recordings of her discussing plans to flee with Wyatt. "Sign this agreement renouncing all custody claims," Dominic said, "or face charges of conspiracy, child endangerment, and attempted kidnapping." Adrienne's face contorted with rage. "You engineered all of this. You destroyed everything we built." "No," Dominic corrected. "You destroyed at the moment you decided our family was disposable." "I'll never give up my son," she declared. Dominic slid a tablet toward her. "Watch this before deciding." The video showed Wyatt in a therapy session, describing the day he nearly drowned. "Mom and Bradley left me in the water. They said they'd watch, but they went away. I screamed, but nobody came. Then the water pulled me down." Adrienne's hands trembled. "You manipulated him." "I recorded his trauma," Dominic corrected. "The trauma you caused." "Sign the papers, Adrian. It's over." By midnight, both Bradley and Adrian had capitulated, signing comprehensive agreements that protected Wyatt and ensured their separation from his life. 6 months later, Bradley Montgomery was sentenced to 15 years for fraud, bribery, and attempt to pervert justice. His assets were seized, his empire dismantled. Adrian received 5 years for embezzlement and child endangerment, with a permanent loss of parental rights. Dominic had weathered the storm. His professional reputation was restored after evidence emerged that the misconduct allegations were fabricated. The court awarded him full legal custody of Wyatt, with permission to adopt him formally. On the anniversary of the day Wyatt nearly drowned, Dominic took him back to that same beach. They stood at the water's edge, watching the waves. "Are you scared?" Dominic asked gently. Wyatt nodded. "A little. That's okay. Fear keeps us alert, but we can't let it control us." Together, they waded into the gentle surf. Dominic taught Wyatt how to recognize a rip current, how to swim parallel to shore if caught in one, how to respect the ocean's power without fearing it completely. As they dried off afterward, Wyatt asked, "Do you think Mom ever loved me?" The question pierced Dominic's heart. "I think she loved you the best way she knew how. Some people aren't built to put others first. But you are," Wyatt said with certainty. "For you? Always." That evening, as Wyatt slept, Dominic received a letter from Adrienne's prison. He considered burning it unread, but curiosity won out. "Dom, I underestimated you. I thought you were simple, predictable, manageable. I never saw the depths until it was too late. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even want it. But I need you to know that in my twisted way, I did love Wyatt. And maybe, for a time, I loved you too. Bradley and I deserved what we got. But someday, Wyatt will ask about me. Tell him whatever truth, preserve his heart." Hey, Dominic folded the letter and placed it in a box of keepsakes he maintained for Wyatt's future questions. Then he stepped onto the balcony of their new home, overlooking the same ocean that had nearly claimed his son. The water reflected moonlight, beautiful and dangerous, like so many things in life. Dominic had navigated its depths, survived its currents, and finally broken through to the surface with what mattered most. He thought of Adrienne and Bradley, paying for their betrayal. He felt no joy in their suffering, no lingering thirst for revenge. Only a cool certainty that justice had been served, and that some debts could only be paid in full. Tomorrow, he and Wyatt would begin the adoption process. They would become, legally and forever, what they already were in every way that mattered: family. Dominic turned from the ocean view and went inside, closing the door on the past, sealing himself and Wyatt safely within the future they deserved. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.